I overheard my future son-in-law planning to humiliate my daughter during the wedding vows, right in front of relatives, guests, and the officiant. I heard it with my own ears while standing behind the staff door of the hotel. But before the story begins, please write in the comments section where you're watching this story from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so the Stories with Meaning channel can continue to grow and bring you even more powerful stories. My name is Richard Whitman. I'm 68 years old. I've been a widower for 8 years now. I live alone in a small wooden house left behind by my late wife in Savannah, Georgia. It's a modest home with a small yard filled with chili peppers and tomatoes. In my younger days, I worked as a theatrical stage designer, specializing in lighting illusions and mechanical props that could deceive the eye and astonish audiences. Now my life is simple. I repair old mechanical toys in a workshop behind the house, grow vegetables, and attend dawn prayers at the small neighborhood church. I have only one child, my daughter, Clare Ann Whitman. Her friends call her Clare. She's 28 years old, a graduate in linguistics, and works for an online education company. She's kind, gentle, and compassionate, sometimes too trusting. For 3 years, she had been dating Daniel Prescott, a 33-year-old private English tutor. From the very beginning, something about him didn't sit right with me. His smile was too polished, his words too smooth. But Claire was happy, so I stayed silent. We are not a wealthy family, but we live with dignity and self-respect. Everything changed after the engagement. Daniel and his family pushed aggressively for the wedding to happen as soon as possible. His mother, Margaret Prescott, a former notary public, controlled every detail. She spoke softly, always using phrases like, "for everyone's benefit," but her tone felt intimidating. "Mr. Whitman, we want the very best for our children," she once said while sitting in my living room. "A wedding is sacred. It must be perfect." Margaret insisted the ceremony be held at the Arlington Grand Hotel in Atlanta. "Our extended family is coming from Chicago and Dallas. It would be embarrassing to keep it too simple. This is a major milestone." Claire wanted a small ceremony at home, surrounded only by close family, but Margaret rejected the idea politely. "Sweetheart, hundreds of guests will attend from Daniel's side. Your father's house simply isn't large enough. It wouldn't be fair to them." My suspicions grew when Margaret hired vendors without involving us at all. She even asked for a copy of my ID, supposedly for legal paperwork with the marriage office. But whenever I asked about finances, or even the wedding rings, she avoided the subject. "Don't worry, Mr. Whitman. We'll handle everything. You and Claire just show up and look beautiful." The rehearsal took place 2 days before the wedding. That afternoon, all vendors were present. I was merely an observer. "Your role is simple," they said. "Just arrive, sit down, and relax." During the rehearsal, I noticed something unsettling. Daniel was cold toward Claire. No hand-holding, no whispered affection. Margaret kept whispering with the event coordinators, falling silent whenever I approached. The staff, none of whom we had chosen, kept their distance from my family. Feeling uneasy, I stepped into the staff corridor to get some air. That's when I heard it. Behind the staff door, 2 voices spoke in hushed tones. I recognized them immediately. Daniel and his mother. "As soon as the officiant declares the vows valid, you reveal the photos," Margaret whispered. "Let her be humiliated in front of everyone. Then we announce the wedding is canceled." Daniel chuckled softly, a sound that sent chills down my spine. "After that, we leave with all the gift envelopes. Problem solved." My body froze. My ears rang like a swarm of bees. But my hand moved on its own. I activated the voice recorder on my phone. "What photos?" Daniel asked. "The edited ones from last week," Margaret replied calmly. "They make it look like she was having an affair in a hotel room. High-quality edits, very convincing. If she denies it, who will believe her?
Everyone will have already seen the proof. The shame will spread instantly. And we already have fake witnesses lined up. They'll claim they saw her entering hotels with another man. My heart pounded violently. "Are you sure this will work?" Daniel asked. "I've done this twice before," Margaret answered. "Timing is everything. When she's at her happiest, boom, everything collapses." I returned to the rehearsal room with a calm face. Margaret smiled at me. "Mr. Whitman, are you feeling all right? Sorry if things are hectic. Big preparations, you know." I smiled politely and sat down. But inside, my heart beat like a war drum. That night, I locked myself in my workshop. I replayed the recording over and over while staring at unfinished mechanical toys. Half-built wooden doll, a broken music box, a miniature train with missing wheels. Memories of Clare flooded my mind. Teaching her to ride a bike, cleaning her scraped knees, staying up late to help her study, the day she graduated and hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Dad, for never giving up on me." Guilt and rage mixed inside my chest. At dawn, I went to church, then bought chicken porridge from a diner Clare loved whenever she was sick or sad. I drove straight to her apartment. She had just finished showering, still wrapped in a towel, startled to see me so early. "Dad? What's wrong?" I placed the food on her table. "I'm not sick," I said softly, "but someone is about to hurt you. Listen." I played the recording. Her hands trembled, her face drained of color. The glass of tea slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Tears fell silently. This can't be real," she whispered. I played the part about the fake photos, the fake witnesses, the public humiliation. She stepped on broken glass without noticing. "Why would they do this to me?" she cried. "What did I do wrong?" I held her hand tightly. "They think we're weak," I said. "They think we won't fight back." She looked up at me, eyes red but burning with resolve. "If they want to stage a performance," she said, "let's give them a stage." At that moment, I knew. The blood of a stage designer still flowed through her. I called my old friend, Susan Miller, artistic director of the Midwest Classical Theater Company. After hearing everything, she laughed quietly. "All right, Richard, let's create the greatest performance of our lives." That same evening, we began planning. First, we booked the Magnolia Ballroom at the Grand Seton Hotel, a venue strikingly similar to the Arlington Grand, and that was only the beginning.
Even the ballroom's dimensions were almost identical. "We'll choose the exact same date and time as the original wedding plan," Susan Miller said, scribbling notes on a sheet of paper. "We need a large team, at least 40 people. Everyone must be able to act naturally." We contacted alumni from the West Coast Traditional Theater Network, scattered across San Francisco, Oakland, and nearby cities. Some had become professional actors, others art teachers, and some small business owners. But once they heard our story, every single one of them agreed to help, without pay. "This isn't just about Clare," said Michael Grant, a senior actor who once appeared on national television. "This is about standing up against injustice." The most crucial role was finding a fake Clare, someone who could convincingly impersonate her and interact with Daniel and Margaret without raising suspicion. Susan proposed Rose Bennett, a former television drama actress from the early 2000s who now taught drama at a private high school. She was 63 years old, but her face remained youthful, and with the right makeup, she could easily resemble Clare. "I once played a young mother on TV," Rose said confidently when we met at her house. "I can do this." For 3 days, the three of us rehearsed at Rose's home. I described every detail of Clare's habits, her speech patterns, body language, even the way she smiled. Rose wrote everything down carefully.
When Claire is nervous, she fidgets with the ring on her middle finger, and when she speaks to someone older, her voice softens automatically. Meanwhile, the real Claire prepared a complete and accurate wedding vow script. She contacted a friend from the School of Religious Law at Stanford Extension to ensure every step of the ceremony followed proper procedure. We couldn't afford a single mistake. Ethan Miller was responsible for casting the fake officiant, fake MC, and even fake uncles and aunts from the extended family. He also prepared costumes and props. "We need decorations that closely resemble the original venue," Ethan said, showing photos he secretly took of the Arlington Grand Ballroom to avoid suspicion. The most complicated challenge was diverting Claire's real relatives. We created new invitations using a fake wedding committee letterhead and sent them via text message. Due to a special surprise prepared by Claire's father, the venue has been relocated. Please attend the new ballroom for an unforgettable experience. Most relatives replied enthusiastically, assuming it was part of a planned surprise. But Uncle Harold, my late wife's younger brother, called me directly. "Richard, is this true? Why such a sudden change?" I explained carefully, avoiding any real details. "Technical issues at the Arlington, Uncle. Everything's under control." To ensure Daniel and Margaret still went to the fake venue, we rented a car identical to Daniel's and parked it in front of the Grand Seton Hotel in Palo Alto. One of our actors posed as Daniel's friend, accidentally meeting them in the lobby and casually mentioning that Claire was already upstairs getting ready. Another critical task was setting up 6 hidden cameras. They were concealed inside floral arrangements, behind fabric wall panels, and even inside a chandelier. All footage was streamed to a small control room behind the stage. "We need complete video evidence," Claire said, her eyes still swollen but burning with determination, "so they can't deny anything." The day before the wedding, an unexpected problem arose. Claire received an anonymous message from an unknown number. "Don't trust your father. He's manipulative. You're being used." We immediately suspected that Margaret's side had begun sensing something was wrong. "They may already be suspicious," I told Susan, showing her the message. Susan suggested we double-check all preparations and prepare backup plans. We stored duplicate audio and video recordings in 2 separate locations, one in my workshop, the other at Susan's house. But the most worrying realization came when I suspected Margaret might be spying on our communications. I decided to set a trap. I deliberately spread a rumor that Claire was pregnant. I told Mrs. Linda, a gossip-loving neighbor, that Claire had been nauseous and dizzy lately. "Please don't tell anyone," I added, casually. "It's too early to announce." Less than 2 days later, Daniel messaged Claire through a messaging app. "If you want to stay safe, it's better to cancel the wedding. But don't play games with us, Claire. We know everything." The message was vague, but clear enough. "They're monitoring us," Claire said, turning off her phone. "They can read our messages." We changed strategy immediately. Claire rented a new phone with a different number. All communication was done through third parties or handwritten codes exchanged in person. Rose Bennett trained relentlessly for 3 consecutive days in my workshop. Every afternoon, she practiced walking, sitting, even holding a glass. "Claire always holds her tea with both hands," I explained, demonstrating. "And when she laughs, she covers her mouth with the back of her hand." The other actors were trained in improvisational acting, preparing them to respond naturally if Daniel or Margaret behaved unpredictably. "The key is not to make them suspicious," Michael reminded the team. "We must feel like her real extended family." Claire and I barely slept during the 3 nights leading up to the wedding. We rehearsed, checked equipment, and ensured every actor knew their role. But beneath all the preparation, I could see Claire growing more fragile. She tried to appear strong, but I knew she was deeply wounded. "Dad, what if this fails?" she asked one night on the workshop porch. "If it fails," I said, gripping her hand, At least they'll never think we're weak, and I'll protect you, no matter what. Finally, wedding day arrived. That morning, we received alarming news. One of our actors assigned to monitor the hotel reported, Daniel installed something in the bride's dressing room during his final check. It looks like a small camera, hidden behind the mirror. My heart pounded. Would our plan collapse before the performance even began? They arrived, smiling, unaware that the entire room was filled with actors. But Daniel looked uneasy. Had he sensed something was wrong? 2:45 p.m., Magnolia Ballroom, Grand Seton Hotel. The venue looked elegant yet understated, adorned with carefully arranged traditional-inspired decor, fabric panels, white roses, and jasmine accents. I stood inside the small control room behind the stage with Susan, monitoring 6 live camera feeds. My heart raced. After days of preparation, the performance was about to begin. Daniel and Margaret arrived exactly as predicted. They were welcomed at the entrance by our wedding committee and extended family, all of them seasoned actors. Michael Grant played Clare's uncle flawlessly, wearing a patterned formal jacket and greeting them warmly. "Ah, you must be Clare's groom. Welcome. The family's been waiting for you." Margaret stiffened slightly. Her eyes scanned the room, searching for something out of place. She whispered to Daniel, "Daniel, doesn't this feel different from the rehearsal?" Daniel touched her arm, trying to reassure her, though his own face showed unease. "It's probably because the decorations are fully set up now. Everything's normal, Mom." But I could see it clearly. Daniel had begun to suspect. He watched Rose Bennett closely, his gaze sharp and calculating. At that moment, Benjamin Clark stepped forward and invited all guests to take their seats. The wedding ceremony was about to begin.
Our fake officiant, Mr. Samuel Turner, a religious studies teacher who was also a seasoned theater actor, was fully prepared, wearing a white ceremonial robe and a black cap. The family witnesses, the opening prayer leader, and the entire team were already in their assigned positions. The ballroom grew solemn as all guests took their seats in orderly silence. The ceremony began with the recitation of sacred verses by our cleric, Mr. David Harris. His voice was strong and melodic, deepening the sacred atmosphere. "In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful." After the recitation, a short address was delivered by the extended family, represented by Michael Grant, playing Clare's uncle. "We are grateful to witness the marriage of our beloved niece today. May God bless the union of Clare Whitman and Daniel Prescott." Then came the dowry presentation. Daniel stepped forward and handed over a set of gold jewelry along with an agreed amount of cash in US dollars. His face was tense, nothing like the joyful expression a groom should have on such a day. Mr. Turner, as the officiant, began reading the marriage procedure in a calm, authoritative tone. "The marriage to be conducted today is between Mr. Daniel Prescott, son of Thomas Prescott, and Miss Clare Whitman, daughter of Richard Whitman. Are all parties ready?" The room fell completely silent. All eyes turned toward Daniel and Rose Bennett, who was playing the role of Clare. Before proceeding, Mr. Turner spoke again. "Before we continue, I must confirm, are both parties entering this marriage of their own free will, without coercion?" Rose nodded gently. "Yes, sir." Daniel nodded as well, but his movement was stiff. "Very well. Mr. Prescott, are you ready to marry Clare Whitman with the agreed dowry?" Daniel nodded once more. From the control room, I could feel my heart pounding violently. But just before the vows could be spoken, Margaret Prescott suddenly stood up. Her movement startled everyone. Her face hardened, rage replacing the forced smile she had worn all morning. "I'm sorry," she said loudly, shattering the silence. "I cannot allow this to continue. There is something everyone here must know." The ballroom erupted into murmurs. The guests whispered among themselves in confusion. Rose Bennett reacted exactly as rehearsed, shocked, frozen in place.
Margaret pulled a large envelope from her handbag. Her hand trembled slightly, but her expression remained cold and resolute. "This," she declared, raising the envelope high, "is proof of who Clare truly is, a woman who betrayed my son." She pulled out several large printed photographs and displayed them to the audience. The images showed a woman resembling Clare with a man inside a hotel room, crudely edited but convincing at a glance. "These photos were taken last year. She had an affair before marrying my son." The ballroom descended into chaos. Our actor guests reacted on cue. Some gasped, others whispered in disappointment. Daniel stood beside his mother, nodding with a carefully crafted look of sorrow. "I apologize to everyone present. I only learned about this a week ago. I cannot continue a marriage built on lies." David Harris, the cleric, attempted to calm the room. "Let us resolve this calmly. Please sit down. We can discuss this properly." But Margaret escalated further. She pulled out her phone and played a short, low-quality video. "This was taken at the same hotel. You can see for yourselves. It's really her." The video was clearly amateurish and manipulated, but Margaret presented it with absolute certainty. Daniel lowered his head dramatically. "I tried to forgive, but I cannot marry someone who lied to me and my family." Rose Bennett began to cry softly, her body trembling as if shattered. I don't understand. I never did any of this. Those photos and videos aren't real." Margaret pointed a finger straight at her face. "Stop pretending. You think you can fool everyone here? Do you think we're idiots?" The ballroom grew louder. Some aunts stood up, whispering among themselves. "How could this happen? Poor Daniel's family. She seemed like such a good girl." Sensing support from the crowd, Margaret grew bolder. "If this wedding continues, I will report this to the police for document fraud, public humiliation of our family, and financial deception." Her sentence was suddenly cut off by a high-pitched screech from the ballroom's sound system. The noise was sharp and painful. "What's wrong with the audio?" someone shouted. The ballroom lights slowly dimmed until only a single spotlight illuminated the giant screen behind the stage. All heads turned towards it. Margaret screamed in panic. "What is this? Who's messing with this event?" Daniel scanned the room nervously. "Mom, something's wrong," he whispered. Suddenly, total blackout. The room plunged into darkness. Gasps and whispers echoed through the crowd. Then, the screen lit up, bright, clear, revealing a figure that made Margaret and Daniel freeze in terror. Clare Whitman, the real Clare. Margaret wanted a performance, so we gave her the finest stage, complete with hidden cameras and an audience she would never forget. The giant screen showed Clare standing tall in the ballroom of the Arlington Grand Hotel, the venue originally intended for the real ceremony. She wore the same emerald green ceremonial dress as Rose Bennett, but her aura was different, strong, unshakable. Her voice rang clearly through the speakers, steady, fearless. "Margaret Prescott, Daniel Prescott, you thought you could humiliate me. You thought we would stay silent while you destroyed my life." Margaret staggered backward, crashing into a chair. "What is that? Who is there?" she whispered in horror. On the screen, Clare stood surrounded by our real family, Uncle Harold, Aunt Cynthia, cousins, and longtime neighbors. Their faces were firm, not angry, but determined to reveal the truth. Behind Clare hung a massive banner reading, "The official marriage of Clare Whitman and the truth," gold letters on deep maroon fabric. Daniel bolted for the exit, only to find every door locked from the outside by our security team. "Open the door!" he screamed, pounding helplessly. Rose Bennett removed her bridal shawl and stood tall. Her gentle smile transformed into one of victory. "The game is over, Mrs. Prescott," she said calmly. "Now it's our turn." I stepped out from behind the stage curtain with Susan Miller, taking the microphone from Benjamin Clark, who was still frozen as the MC. I planned all of this, I declared, my voice filling the ballroom. You prepared a stage to destroy my daughter, so I prepared a better one, a stage where the truth would be revealed. One by one, our actors removed their disguises. Mr. Turner took off his white robe, revealing a theater ID badge. David Harris removed his pap and smiled. Michael Grant bowed deeply, like an actor finishing a final performance. Welcome to the greatest theater production of our lives. The room fell dead silent. Margaret stood trembling, staring blankly at the screen where Claire still stood strong. This can't be real," she whispered. "This has to be a nightmare." But we weren't finished. The best part had just begun. I connected my phone to the ballroom sound system. The audio recording I had captured in the hotel staff corridor began to play, crystal clear. Margaret's own voice echoed through the room. Once the officiant declares it valid, you show the photos, let her be completely humiliated, then we cancel the wedding. Daniel's soft laugh followed, now chilling. After that, we take the gift envelopes and leave, case closed. Margaret screamed and covered her ears, but the recording continued, exposing every detail of their plan. The fake photos, the fake witnesses, the psychological destruction they intended. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" Margaret shrieked, rushing towards me. Michael Grant and Ethan Miller blocked her path. When the recording ended, the screen changed. A side-by-side comparison appeared. Left, the fake photos Margaret had shown earlier. Right, the original images, clearly unedited, exposing obvious manipulation. Claire's voice spoke from the screen. "These are the photos you used, cheap edits, so poorly done even a high school student could expose them." Then another audio clip began to play, a private voice message conversation between Daniel and his friend, one we had successfully intercepted. And the truth was now unstoppable.
Daniel's voice rang out clearly through the speakers. "Don't tell Claire about this. But honestly, if this destroys her mentally, that's fine too. I'm exhausted thinking about my debts. If the wedding is canceled, at least I won't have to pay for the reception." Hearing his own words played back to him, Daniel Prescott collapsed into the nearest chair. His face turned ghostly pale, his hands shaking uncontrollably. That wasn't what I meant," he stammered. But the shock was far from over. Two women appeared on the screen, standing beside Clare Whitman. Their faces were immediately recognizable to Margaret Prescott. The first woman stepped forward, her voice firm and steady. "My name is Diana Reynolds from Austin, Texas. Last year, Margaret Prescott destroyed my son's wedding using the exact same scheme." The second woman followed. "I'm Sarah Collins from San Diego, California. My child was also a victim. She fabricated photos and spread lies until our engagement collapsed." Both women held up documents and photographs as evidence. It became painfully clear Margaret had committed the same crime repeatedly in different cities. "How many families have you destroyed?" Claire asked from the screen, her voice trembling with restrained fury. I stepped onto the stage and opened a thick folder. These are forged notary documents Margaret Prescott once used to scam a family inheritance in San Diego. And these are bank transfer records from previous victims, money stolen through fraudulent investment schemes she promoted. Each document I displayed drained more color from Margaret's face. "It's all lies," she croaked weakly. "You made this up." Suddenly, the ballroom doors swung open. 3 uniformed police officers entered, led by a stern-looking commissioner. "We are from the California State Police. we have received sufficient reports and evidence to arrest Margaret Prescott on charges of document forgery, systematic fraud, and conspiracy to commit defamation." Margaret staggered backward, shaking her head violently. "No, this is all a misunderstanding. I only wanted to protect my son." The commissioner produced a prepared arrest warrant. "Margaret Prescott, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in court." Daniel tried to flee again, but the exits were already sealed. One officer, who had been posing as a guest from the beginning, grabbed his arm firmly. "Daniel Prescott, you are also required to come with us for questioning as an accomplice." Margaret collapsed to her knees, sobbing on the ballroom floor. "I just wanted what was best for my son. I didn't know what else to do. Our debts were crushing us." But the tears came too late. Everyone present had become a living witness to undeniable confessions and evidence. On the screen, Clare spoke calmly, her voice filled with quiet strength. "Margaret, if you were struggling financially, why didn't you ask for help honestly? Why destroy other people's lives? Why turn a sacred day into a stage for cruelty?" I took the microphone one final time. "Everyone here today is a witness, including 6 cameras that recorded everything from start to finish. These recordings will be submitted as legal evidence." Susan Miller pointed toward a screen in the corner of the ballroom, showing a live stream with millions of viewers. "And for those who couldn't attend," she added, "everything has been broadcast live on social media." There was nowhere left to hide. Margaret and Daniel were handcuffed and escorted out by the police. Before leaving, Margaret turned to me, her eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over, Mr. Whitman. You think you've won." I met her gaze calmly. "I'm not playing to win or lose. I'm protecting my daughter from those who tried to destroy her." After they were gone, the ballroom fell into a deep, peaceful silence. The actors removed their costumes and gathered at the center of the room, smiling with quiet pride. "Thank you, everyone," I said, bowing. "You helped save my daughter's future." Michael Grant patted my shoulder warmly. "This wasn't just for Clare, Richard. This was for every young woman who might have been the next victim." On the screen, Clare stood with our real family. For the first time in a week, she smiled. "Dad, I'm exhausted from all this drama. Can we go home and eat chicken porridge together?" I laughed, wiping tears from my eyes. "Of course, sweetheart. Let's go home." The case went viral across social media and family group chats, but I knew the reckoning wasn't truly over. The video of Daniel and Margaret's arrest spread rapidly online, uploaded by a member of our theater community, complete with dramatic narration and memorable hashtags. Within hours, it had millions of views. Neighborhood forums and community chats buzzed with discussion. One gossip-loving neighbor even sent a long message to a local women's group. "My God, what if this happened to our children? We must be more careful choosing future in-laws. Sweet smiles can hide monsters." Online media outlets ran sensational headlines. "Fake wedding exposed. Former notary arrested mid-ceremony. Real-life drama outshines television fiction." Claire's co-workers were initially shocked. They had known her as a quiet, kind young woman. After watching the full footage and reading the official police statement, they sent messages of support and visited her in person. "We're proud of you and Mr. Whitman. You stood up to injustice with intelligence and courage." Yet, despite the public support, Clare withdrew. She couldn't bear the attention, positive or negative. She took a full week off work. Her supervisor granted special leave with full pay. She refused to open her phone, avoided social media entirely. "Dad, I'm tired," she said one afternoon on the back porch, staring at the chili plants. "I'm tired of being watched. I'm tired of everyone talking about my life." She deleted all social media apps, avoided relatives, even close cousins. "I don't want pity," she whispered, wiping her tears. "I just want a normal life again." I stayed beside her in silence, making tea, preparing small meals, afraid that words might only add to her burden. 2 weeks after the arrest, a letter arrived from Willow Creek Women's Correctional Facility. It was addressed to me personally. The handwriting was neat but shaky. "Dear Mr. Richard Whitman, we were wrong and I accept the consequences. But weren't you once young too? Haven't you ever made mistakes? We've been punished, but we are destroyed. Our family has become a target of public scorn. I only want to know, was your satisfaction worth our ruin?" I didn't show the letter to Clare. I placed it in the drawer where I kept my late wife's clothes, still faintly scented with her perfume. But the words haunted me in the silence of the night. Had I gone too far? Had I become like them, using power to destroy others? The legal process moved faster than expected. Daniel confessed and agreed to testify to reduce his sentence. He revealed that his mother had sabotaged at least 2 of his previous engagements and worked with a fake notary syndicate in Texas and California. He admitted to investigators that, "My mother has money problems, but I never thought she would plan something like this." A search of Margaret's home uncovered dozens of forged inheritance documents bearing different family names. Bank records showed transfers totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars from previous victims. Most disturbing of all, police found draft divorce papers prepared in advance, intended for Clare. A long-term plan: marry her, then divorce her after gaining access to our family property. "They were after your mother's house," I told Clare quietly. Margaret denied everything till the end, blaming Daniel and accusing Clare of manipulation. "My son is a good boy," she cried in court. "He was deceived by that girl." The trial was held at the San Francisco District Court, open to the public. Media filled the room. Former victims attended, including Diana from...
Inside the car, Clare Whitman spoke for the first time since that morning. "Dad, I don't really know what winning is supposed to feel like, but at least we didn't stay silent when we were treated unfairly." I didn't answer. I simply nodded, squeezed her hand, and started the engine. A few days after the verdict, life slowly began to return to normal. Clare went back to work. She still looked tired and somewhat withdrawn, but her coworkers supported her in a quiet, respectful way, occasionally checking in, offering help when needed, without overwhelming her. One afternoon, while I was repairing an old music box in my workshop, Clare walked in with a cup of coffee and sat beside me on a wooden chair. "Dad, how long do you think it will take before I feel normal again?" "Maybe never exactly like before, but you'll become stronger, and that's better than just being normal." She gave a faint smile, the first real one I had seen in weeks. "Thank you for protecting me. I'm sorry for all the trouble I caused." "You were never a burden," I replied. "You're the reason I still wake up with purpose every morning." That night, I received a call from an unknown number. A woman's hoarse voice spoke with a threatening tone. "Mr. Whitman, this isn't over. We have friends out there. Your daughter isn't completely safe." I recorded the call and reported it to the police immediately. The next day, they assured me they would investigate and provide additional protection if necessary. Still, the threat kept me awake for nights. What if someone else was planning something? What if our stand for justice invited even greater danger? We never intended to destroy anyone, but when someone tramples on dignity with a sweet smile, you don't stay silent, you stand your ground. I installed additional security cameras and asked the neighbors to stay alert. Mrs. Mina, usually a gossip, turned out to be incredibly helpful, keeping an eye on unfamiliar faces around our house. What worried me most, though, was Claire's mental state. She had returned to work, but her spirit hadn't fully recovered. Her smiles felt forced, her eyes often stared into nothing. She woke up from nightmares in the middle of the night. "Dad, I dreamed they came back," she whispered one early morning in the kitchen, holding a cup of warm tea. Margaret came with new photos, and this time everyone believed her. I sat beside her and held her cold hands. "It was just a dream, sweetheart. They can't hurt us anymore. We have evidence, we have witnesses, and most importantly, we have the truth." But I knew emotional wounds don't heal that easily. After consulting our family doctor, I suggested Clare join a support group for victims of fraud and psychological manipulation in San Francisco. At first, she refused. "I don't want to be part of some group therapy where everyone tells sad stories. I'm exhausted talking about this." "You don't have to talk," I said gently. "Maybe listening will help." After several days of thinking, Clare agreed to try. The group met every Saturday afternoon in the community hall of a Catholic church in Palo Alto. At the first meeting, Clare sat quietly in a corner, just listening. When we got home, she said softly, "Turns out there are many people who've had it worse than me." At the second meeting, she began offering short responses when asked. At the third meeting, she met someone who would change her life. His name was Simon Hart, 35 years old, an elementary school teacher from Oakland, California. He wasn't conventionally handsome, but his eyes reflected sincerity. He joined the group because his former fiancée had used his name to run a fraudulent investment scheme. "I lost all my savings, I sold my house to pay debts, and worst of all, I lost my trust in people. But I learned that not everyone is bad, I just need to be more careful about who deserves my trust." That evening, Clare told me about Simon. "He's simple, honest, and the thing I like most, he doesn't try to comfort me with sweet words. He just listens." In the following weeks, Clare grew noticeably lighter. She smiled more. She slept better. Her appetite slowly returned. "Simon taught me how to make crafts from recycled materials for his students," she said one day, showing me a handmade cloth doll. "He says when your hands are busy creating something useful, your mind becomes calmer." I watched her transformation with relief and caution. I was grateful she was healing, but I didn't want her hurt again. One Saturday, Simon came to our house to pick Clare up for the support group. He brought homemade pastries from his mother and greeted me politely. "Good afternoon, Mr. Whitman. I'm Simon. Thank you for allowing Clare to join our group." His tone was calm, unpretentious. I invited him in for a short conversation. "Simon, you know, at least partly what Claire's been through. Aren't you afraid of getting involved with someone who's been in the media's spotlight?" He smiled gently. "Sir, I was once the subject of neighborhood gossip myself. I know how it feels to be judged unfairly. That's why I don't judge people by what I hear, but what I see." That answer earned my respect. Their relationship grew slowly. No drama, no grand promises, just simple conversations, shared activities at the group, and occasional lunches afterwards. "I like Simon because he doesn't try to fix me," Clare said one night. "He accepts me as I am, even with all the chaos in my past." 6 months after the Margaret Prescott, Daniel Prescott case, I decided it was time to test Simon's seriousness, not with tricks or drama, but honesty.
I invited him for dinner on a Sunday evening. The menu was simple: fried chicken, vegetables, and white rice. Nothing fancy, nothing staged. During dinner, I watched how he treated Clare. No forced romance, no showmanship. He helped set the table, asked if the food was seasoned enough, laughed quietly at Clare's jokes. Afterwards, we sat on the back porch with warm tea. "Simon," I said, "are you ready for a direct question?" "I'd prefer that, sir." A brief silence. Crickets chirped in the garden. "Are you prepared to be tested, not by vows or sweet promises, but by time and real actions?" Simon looked at me seriously. "Mr. Whitman, I didn't come to take anything from Clare or from this family. I'm here because I feel comfortable with her, and I hope she feels the same. I'm not rushing, but I won't walk away for the wrong reasons." "You know she was hurt deeply," I said. "I do, and I know you protected her in an extraordinary way. I respect that. I'm not here to replace you. I just want to be someone she can trust." His answer was simple, not dramatic, but deeply sincere. "If you're serious," I continued, "you should know Clare isn't the same person she was before. She's more cautious, slower to trust." "I understand," he replied. "Everyone has scars. What matters is how we help each other heal." Months later, my workshop filled with newly repaired mechanical toys. But one piece was special, crafted with extra care. A small wooden dancer stood on a rotating stage, powered by the heat of a candle beneath it. When lit, the dancer spun gracefully, as if floating on air. At the base, I carved a message. "For Clare, a second chance from Dad, October 2025. When Clare saw it, her eyes filled with tears. She gently wound the key and watched the dancer spin, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. "Dad, you've never made anything like this before." "Because I've never seen you this strong before," I said, wrapping my arm around her. Simon, who happened to be visiting, stared at the toy in awe. "Mr. Whitman, this is beautiful. Clare is lucky to have a father who can create small miracles." That day, I knew Simon was the right person, not because he was perfect, but because he was genuine. That night, after Simon left, I sat alone in the workshop, staring at the toys, some finished, some still in progress. I remembered Margaret Prescott's question from her prison letter. Was your satisfaction worth our destruction? Now I had my answer. This was never about satisfaction or revenge. It was about protecting the people I love from those who wish to destroy them. And if I had to do it again, I would, without hesitation. The evening call to prayer echoed softly from the nearby mosque. I turned off the workshop lights and walked inside. Clare was sitting in the living room reading a book, smiling to herself. "Want to go pray together?" she asked without looking up. "Let me grab my jacket," I replied. We walked together in comfortable silence. No more fear, no more suspicion. Just the peace of a father who had protected his daughter, and a daughter who had learned how to rise again. Halfway, Clare said quietly, "Dad, thank you for everything." I simply nodded. No long words were needed. We both knew the journey wasn't over, but we also knew we would face whatever came next together. There are no guarantees that goodness always wins, no guarantees that bad people won't try again. But one thing was certain: we would never stay silent again. We would never allow anyone to trample our faith.